Hello everyone and welcome back to Mind the Gap. It's really lovely to have you with us again. I'm Jen.
And I'm Casey. So Jen, I've been hearing this from so many learners recently, and I think it's such a big worry. They say, why do native speakers talk so fast? Is it because we don't know enough words?
Ah, yes, that question comes up all the time, doesn't it? And honestly, I completely understand why learners feel that way. You sit in front of a film, or maybe you're listening to a conversation on the bus, and it just feels like everything is racing past you. It can be so frustrating. But here's the good news. It's not just you, and it's not that your English is bad. This is something almost every learner experiences. In today's episode, we're going to unpack this problem step by step, and more importantly, we'll share some practical ways to deal with it. By the end, you'll know exactly what to focus on and how to train your brain to keep up with fast English.
That sounds perfect. I'm already curious to know if it really is about vocabulary or if something else is going on.
Exactly. So let's dive in.
So Jen, let me put this to you. A lot of people genuinely believe that the reason they don't understand native speakers is simply because they don't know enough vocabulary. The thinking goes, if I just memorize more words, I'll finally get it. Is that true?
Well, vocabulary definitely helps. I mean, if you don't know the word umbrella and someone asks you, have you got an umbrella, you'll be lost. So, of course, vocabulary is part of the picture. But, and this is really important, it's not the main problem when it comes to fast native speech.
Not the main problem? Then what is going on?
Think about this. Sometimes you know all the words in a sentence, but you still don't understand what the speaker means. For example, if I say to you, it's on me. Now, the words are simple, aren't they? It, you know that. On, you know that. Me, you know that. But unless you've learnt that as a phrase, you probably wouldn't realise it means I'll pay for you, I'll treat you.
Right, so the problem isn't the words themselves, it's more about how they're used together.
Exactly. Language isn't just Lego bricks of vocabulary, it's patterns, it's chunks, it's expressions that carry a meaning bigger than the individual words. Learners often get frustrated because they're trying to decode each word separately, then translate it into their own language, and by the time they finish that process, boom, the conversation has already moved on.
That sounds familiar. I've definitely had that moment when I'm still translating the first part and I've already missed the second part completely.
Yes, and that's why simply adding more words to your memory isn't enough. Imagine watching a film in English. You recognise the words go, home, late, bus. But if the actors are speaking quickly, linking words together or using an idiom, you suddenly feel lost. The problem isn't your vocabulary list, it's the way your brain is processing the language.
So would you say the real challenge is what you sometimes call thinking in English?
Spot on. I like to call it building an English brain. Instead of stopping to translate each word into Chinese or another language, you want to train yourself to react directly in English. That way, when someone says, fancy a cuppa, your brain doesn't go, fancy equals 喜欢, cuppa equals 茶杯, and then try to glue it all together. It just jumps straight to, they're asking if I want a cup of tea.
That makes so much sense. So the real danger here is not a lack of words, but relying too much on translation.
Yes, that's exactly it. Translation is like carrying a heavy backpack. You can move forward, but very slowly. To really keep up with fast English, you need to drop that backpack and build a quicker route in your brain. And that's what we're going to explore today. How to get rid of the constant translation and start thinking directly in English.
So Jen, you've mentioned this idea of an English brain a few times now. But what exactly is it?
Good question. When I talk about an English brain, I mean the ability to understand English directly, without having to stop and translate it into Chinese or any other language first. It's that mental switch where English goes in and meaning comes out straight away. No middleman involved.
So it's like cutting out the translation step.
Exactly. Let me give you a comparison. In Chinese, if someone says, 吃饭了吗? You don't stop and think, 吃 means eat, fan means rice or meal, ma is a question particle. No, you instantly know it's just a friendly greeting. You don't even consciously notice the words. That's your Chinese brain at work.
Right, so in English, we want the same thing.
Yes, when you hear, how's it going? The goal is not to pause and translate each word, how, 怎么样, it, 他, going, 进行中. If you do that, you'll be painfully slow. Instead, your English brain should jump straight to, oh, they're just saying hello, asking how I am.
That makes sense. So it's more about instinctive understanding, isn't it?
Absolutely. Think of it like this. When you first start learning English, it feels a bit like riding a bike with training wheels. You wobble, you have to check every movement, you keep stopping. That's translation. But once you train your English brain, it's like the training wheels come off. You don't analyze each pedal stroke, you just ride.
I love that metaphor. So how do we actually practice that?
Let's try a mini exercise with our listeners right now. I'm going to say a very British phrase. Fancy a cuppa? Now, don't translate word by word. Don't think fancy equals 喜欢, cuppa equals 茶杯. Just try to feel what it means.
All right, shall we give people a second?
Yes, let's pause for a moment. Okay, if your English brain kicked in, you probably got it. Fancy a cuppa is just a friendly way of asking, would you like a cup of tea? Very British, isn't it?
So it's really about reacting naturally rather than analysing.
Exactly. And the more you practice, the quicker your brain makes these direct connections. At first, it feels slow and a bit awkward, but over time, it becomes automatic. Just like when you learn to recognize, okay. You don't translate it anymore. It just means how. That's what we want with whole phrases in English.
So the English brain is basically training yourself to link English sounds directly to meaning without Chinese getting in the way.
That's it. No dictionary in the middle, no delay. And once you build that reflex, suddenly, fast English doesn't feel impossible anymore. It just flows.
But Jen, let me play devil's advocate for a moment. Can't we just take our time? I mean, what if I just slowly translate everything in my head, English in, Chinese out? Isn't that fine?
Oh, I get why you'd think that. And yes, technically you can do that, but here's the problem. In real life, English doesn't wait for you. Native speakers don't press pause while you translate. By the time you've worked out the first sentence, they're already 3 steps ahead.
Yes, that's exactly the problem I've had when watching British dramas. I'm still chewing on one line, and the characters have already fired off 2 more.
Exactly. Native speech is naturally quick, especially in the UK. We love to link words, swallow sounds, throw in expressions. It's not because we want to make life difficult, it's just how people talk day to day. And if you rely on translation, you'll always feel like you're chasing a train that's already left the station.
So the speed is one reason. What else makes translation tricky?
Well, another big reason is context. English is full of phrases that don't make sense if you translate word by word. Let me give you an example. I'll give you a bell.
A bell? Like a church bell?
Exactly. If you translate it literally, you'll picture me handing you an actual bell. But in British English, it just means I'll give you a phone call. Unless your brain can make that direct leap, English phrase straight to meaning, you'll get completely confused.
That's a really good example. So if I tried to translate that step by step, I'd totally miss the point.
Yes, and that's the danger. Translation often produces nonsense because languages don't map perfectly onto each other. And then there's the third reason, thinking styles. English tends to be more direct and structured. For example, we'd say, I don't agree, very clearly. In Chinese, you might just say something softer like, 好像不是吧, which is less direct. If you keep trying to process English through a Chinese lens, you'll always feel a mismatch.
So it's not just about words, it's about culture and communication style as well.
Exactly. That's why an English brain isn't a luxury. It's not something nice to have. It's absolutely essential if you want to keep up with real English. Without it, you'll always be translating, always behind, always second-guessing. With it, you'll finally be able to follow conversations naturally and respond in real time.
So really, it's the only way to bridge that gap between what we learn in textbooks and how people actually speak.
That's a brilliant way to put it. The English brain is your ticket from the classroom into the real world.
Oh, right, Jen. So far, you've convinced me that we do need an English brain. But here's the big question. How do we actually build one?
Yes, that's the heart of it, isn't it? And the good news is, it's not some mysterious talent. Anyone can train their brain to think in English. I like to break it down into 3 core ingredients.
Okay, go on.
Number 1, stop translating word by word. Number 2, focus on chunks, not individual words. And number 3, get as much natural input as possible. Real English, not just textbook sentences.
Let's unpack those one at a time. The first one, you said stop translating word by word. But that's easier said than done, right?
True, it's a tough habit to break. But think about it like this. If you see the word dog, what happens in your head? You don't really think, oh, go equals dog. You just instantly picture a dog. Maybe a Labrador, maybe a little corgi. That's the direct connection we want. English to meaning, no Chinese in the middle.
So instead of thinking dog means go, we should jump straight to the image of a dog.
Exactly. And once you start doing this with longer phrases, it really speeds things up. Which brings me nicely to ingredient number 2. Learn chunks, not just words.
Chunks, meaning groups of words that naturally go together?
Yes, for example, instead of memorizing take, bus, work as 3 separate items, learn the whole chunk, take the bus to work, because that's how people actually use it. When you hear it, you won't waste time assembling it piece by piece, you'll just recognize it as one familiar unit.
That really does sound more efficient, and it must make listening easier too, because you don't have to decode every single word.
Spot on. In fact, research shows that native speakers rely heavily on chunks. That's why learners often feel overwhelmed. Natives aren't really speaking in words, they're speaking in ready-made blocks. The more chunks you know, the faster your brain can keep up.
So it's like having pre-built Lego structures instead of single bricks.
Yes, lovely analogy. If you've only got bricks, it takes ages to build something. But if you've got ready-made pieces, say a window or a door, you can build a house in no time.
All right, so that's translating less and chunking more. What about your third ingredient, natural input?
Ah, yes, this one's crucial. A lot of learners spend years reading grammar books, but they rarely listen to how people actually speak. And then when they finally hear real British English, with all the linking, the slang, the humour, it's a shock. So, you need to flood your brain with real input. Podcasts, radio shows, conversations.
But won't that feel impossible to follow at first?
It will, and that's completely normal. At the beginning, you might only catch 10 or 20%, but the point isn't to understand every word. It's to train your ear, to let your brain get used to the rhythm, the intonation, the common phrases. Over time, what felt like noise starts turning into familiar patterns.
So it's about exposure, not perfection.
Exactly. And if you combine those 3 things, stop translating, learn chunks, and get natural input, you're already halfway to building an English brain. The rest is just practice.
So Jen, we've talked a lot about why we need an English brain and what it involves, but can you give us something practical, like a step-by-step method that people can actually follow at home?
Yes, definitely. I think it helps to imagine this as a journey with 3 main stages: the early stage, the middle stage, and the advanced stage. And the point is, you don't have to do everything at once. You build it up gradually, brick by brick.
All right, let's start with the early stage then. What should learners actually do?
In the early stage, the focus is very simple.
Connect English words directly to images or feelings, not to Chinese translations. For example, if you hear the word apple, don't think, oh, apple equals 苹果. Instead, picture a red apple in your mind. Maybe imagine the crunch as you bite into it. That direct link trains your brain to cut out the middleman.
So it's about retraining your brain's first reaction.
Exactly. You can do this with all sorts of everyday words. Chair, dog, school, bus. It might feel childish at first, but that's exactly how native speakers built their language as children. They never translated into another language. They just linked sounds with meaning.
That makes sense. And what about the middle stage?
Now, in the middle stage, you move beyond single words into chunks. This is where shadowing comes in too. Let's say you're listening to take the bus to work. Instead of breaking it into 4 words, you practice recognizing it as one block. Then you shadow it. Repeat it immediately after you hear it, matching the rhythm and the intonation.
That sounds tricky at first.
It is. You'll stumble, you'll mumble, you'll feel a bit silly, but that's the point. It's training. You're teaching your mouth and your ears to move at the same time, like a dancer copying the steps. And the more you do it, the more natural it feels.
And it helps with listening too, right?
Oh, massively. When you shadow, you're not just copying sounds, you're training your brain to predict what comes next. So you start noticing patterns. At the end of the day, on top of that, I'm not sure if these chunks become familiar friends and you no longer need to process them word by word.
Okay, so that's the middle stage, shadowing and chunk learning. What about the advanced stage?
Good question. In the advanced stage, you add 2 powerful techniques, predictive listening and self-talk. Predictive listening is what I like to call the pause, predict, play method. You listen to a podcast or a video, then pause it for a few seconds and ask yourself, what do I think they're going to say next? Then hit play and check.
That sounds fun, like a guessing game.
Yes, exactly. And it forces your brain to stay one step ahead, just like in real conversations. The second technique is self-talk. It sounds odd, but it's really effective. You basically narrate your life in English. For example, while making tea, you might say to yourself, "I'm putting the kettle on. I'll grab a mug. Where's the milk?"
So you're turning everyday life into practice time.
Spot on. And here's a small but powerful tip. Do at least 10 minutes of micro output every day. That could be self-talk, recording a short voice note, or telling a story out loud. It doesn't have to be perfect. The point is to use the language so your brain gets used to producing English without stopping for translation.
I like that. 10 minutes feels very doable.
Exactly. If you think, I have to study for 2 hours, you'll never start. But 10 minutes of micro output, everyone can fit that in. And if you do it daily, it adds up quickly.
So to sum up, early stage, link words directly to images, no translation. Middle stage, shadowing and chunks. Advanced stage, predictive listening and self-talk, plus 10 minutes of daily micro output.
That's it. And if listeners stick with this path, stage by stage, they'll find themselves moving from slow, translation-based thinking to fast, natural understanding. That's how you grow an English brain.
Jen, I imagine some of our listeners might be thinking, all right, this all sounds great, but when I actually try it, it feels impossible. What kind of problems do you think learners usually run into?
Yes, that's such an important question because struggles are part of the process. Let me share 3 really common ones. First, a lot of learners tell me, I know all the words, but I still don't understand the sentence. That's when context comes in. For example, if you only focus on the word cold, you might miss the meaning. I've got a cold doesn't mean 我很冷, it means 我感冒了. So the trick is to store words together with the situation. Learn in context, not in isolation.
So instead of memorizing single words, it's better to remember them as little stories.
Exactly. The brain loves stories. The more you tie a phrase to a situation, the faster you'll recall it in real conversations. Now, the second struggle, shadowing. Many learners try it once and then say, "This is too fast. I can't keep up." My advice, slow it down. Use the playback speed button, drop it to 0.8. Even 0.7 if you need to, and don't start with 5 minutes. Start with just 10 seconds. 10 seconds is enough. Once you can do 10 seconds confidently, you add another 10, and so on.
That feels much less scary, like breaking a big mountain into small steps.
Exactly, and it's the small, consistent steps that make the biggest difference. The third struggle is about speaking. Learners often freeze because they're worried about grammar. What if I make a mistake? And then they say nothing. My tip is to use sentence starters, little chunks that buy you time. Things like, the thing is, what I'd say is, from my point of view. Once you've started, the rest of the sentence tends to follow.
So it's about giving yourself permission to speak, even if it's not perfect.
Yes, language is for communication, not perfection. No native speaker is judging you for missing an article. They care about the message, the feeling, and the more you speak, the smoother it gets.
I really like that. So, if we bring everything together, what's the big takeaway from today?
Here's the key. If you don't understand native speakers, it's usually not because you don't know enough words. It's because your brain is still stuck in translation mode. Building an English brain is the way forward. And if you follow the steps we shared, stop translating, learn chunks, shadow, predict, self-talk, you will get there.
So it's not about talent, it's about method and practice.
Exactly. And remember, even 10 minutes a day is powerful. Don't wait for a perfect study plan, just start.
Okay, listeners, here's a challenge for you. Today, right after this episode, try 30 seconds of English self-talk. Describe what you're doing, maybe making tea, maybe walking to the bus. It doesn't matter how simple, just do it.
Yes, 30 seconds is enough to prove to yourself that you can think in English. And if you keep building on that day by day, your English brain will only get stronger.
And that's pretty much it for today's episode. We've covered a lot, so if you found it useful, do give this episode a like and don't forget to subscribe to Jen's English Hub.
Yes, and please do share it with friends or classmates who are also learning English. The more people join us, the more fun it gets.
And of course, if there's a topic you'd really like us to talk about in future episodes, just leave us a comment below. We'd love to hear from you.
All right, thanks so much for listening. We'll see you in the next episode.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.